Hello and welcome back to video number 2 for chapter 1, and we'll probably only get through a few slides on this because the division takes a little bit of time. Like I said, we want to keep the videos between less than 9 or 10 minutes, and that's going to be our goal here, to get through division. Then we'll probably wrap it up with another one, I hope. But we are on page 9. I'm sorry, keep thinking 9. You're on page 7. Page 7 in your notes. And we're talking about dividing, different rules of division we need to start with. So if we're going to divide by the number 1, anything divided by the number 1, I'll just say 7 for example. 7 divided by 1 is 7. 5 divided by 1 is 5. 9 divided by 1, we can also write it this way, by the way. In fact, we prefer to write it as a fraction. 9 divided by 1 is 9. So the rule, anytime you divide by 1, let's say any number x divided by the number 1, the answer is that number that's being divided, 1. So that's divided by 1. But let's say you divide a number by itself, such as, I'll stick with my first one, 7 divided by 7. 7 divided by 7, what that means is, let's say I have 7 things. I put them into 7 different groups. You'd have 1 in each group. That's what that means. 5 divided by 1, 5 divided by 5. 5 things, 5 groups, you'd have 1 per group. So it doesn't matter what the number is, anything divided by itself is 1 every time. The only exception would be 0. You can't do 0 divided by 0. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Third fact regarding division that's important for you to know, on page 8 now. In your packet is if you have dividends of 0, it's called, and that would be something like this. Say I had 0 divided by 7. Oh, I'm thinking 0 divided by 7. That's 0. Or let's say I had 0 divided by 5. That's 0 as well. So what that means is you have 0 things, and you divide 0 things into 5 groups. You would have 0 in every group. Can't have that. So 0 divided by any number would itself be 0. The only exception to that, again, is that x cannot be 0 also. But 0 divided by anything other than 0 there would, in fact, come out to be 0. And then here's the strange one that's kind of hard to guess. If you divide by 0, like let's say I have 6 divided by 0. If you think about what that is, that means you have 6 things and you put them into 0 groups. You can't do that. You can't take 6 things and divide it into groups of 0. So that is actually no solution. It's actually impossible to do. It's not 0. Don't say that. It's not 6, because 6 divided by 1 is 6. It's no solution. It's impossible. We cannot divide by 0. You're probably going to see that come back. You need to be aware of that. Now let's move on to division. Long division. Yay. I'm sure you're excited because it's probably been a while for you here. But we have 239 divided by 4 in this particular problem. So what I want to do is I want to ask myself, well, can 4 go into 2? I'll do a quick review here of division. Can 4 go into 2? No, it can't. So then you go one farther. You say, can 4 go into 23? And it can. It can go in there 5 times without going over. Then what you do is you take that number and you multiply it. Because you had 4 5 times, you multiply it and you put it right underneath those numbers you divided. So you've got 5 times 4 is 20. 20 goes there, but here's the deal. You have to subtract because you had 23, but you only used 20 when you went 5 times 4. So you've got that 3 left over, 23 minus 3. Then you bring down this 9 right here because you still haven't, that hasn't been divided by the 4. So now we take this 4 and we ask ourselves, can 4 go into 39 without going over? Well, it can, not exactly. It can go in there 9 times, so then we take 9 times 4, 36, subtract right there and you end up with 3. That 3 left over, we're not going to get into decimals yet, that's chapter 3 I think. We have 3 left over. For the moment, we're just going to call that remainder 3. Okay, 59 remainder 3. We do the same thing for this. We would say 6 can go in there 1 time. We would go 1 times 6, and we would divide this out. This would be a good time to pause the video and try it yourself, and then come right back and I'll show you the answer. If you did that, hopefully you worked that out and got this. Whoops, I clicked a little bit too fast, sorry about that. 6 goes in there one time, 6 goes there, 1 times 6 is 6, you've got 2 left over, bring down the 8. 6 goes into 8 4 times, 6 times 4 is 24. Subtract, you got 4, bring down the 5. Here's a tough one right here, you got 45. 6 goes into 45 7 times without going over, and 7 times 6 is 42. Subtract right there, you've got 3, you've got this 5 you've got to use. 6 goes in there 5 times without going over, because 5 times 6 is 30. 35 minus 30 is 5 left over. Just call that remainder 5. There. So hopefully you got that. And then we move on to this. You will need to know how to take this problem and rewrite it in this form. Okay, so the trick is that first number right there that's being divided, that's the one that goes inside. So you have 3,288 divided by 52. Now what you got to do here, this was a little trickier, you got to take this 52 and see how many times will it go into 328, because it won't go into 3 and it won't go into 32. So you got to do 328. And if we figure that out, I'll tell you one trick you can do. I have 52, I have 328. If for a moment, if I ignore that number and this number right here, the 2 and the 8, and I just ask myself, how many 5s are in 32? There's 6. 6 times 5 is 30. That would be a great guess for a 52 and a 328. Most of the time that'll work. And watch when I multiply this out. I already multiplied this out for you. 6 times 52. That works out to be 312. So I made it. I didn't go over, but I don't have a difference greater than 52 here. So if I multiplied that, I got this. So now I'm going to subtract 8 minus 2, 6. 2 minus 1, 1. Bring down the 8. Now you've got 52 and a 168. Okay, so again, I can use my trick. 5, 52, and 168. I'm going to ignore the 2, ignore the 8. 5 goes into 56 3 times, so I'm going to guess 3. I'm going to multiply 52 times 3. You might have to work that out on the side. And if you do that, you get 156. Subtract down. 8 minus 6 is 2. You got 1 is 12. So you have 63 with a remainder of 12 there. So 63. Those are a little trickier when you get those two numbers, but you can use that trick if you just look at that first digit and look at the first 2 digits you're dividing. Like in this case, we looked at the 32 and we were looking at 168. We just looked at the 16, and the same numbers work. Most of the time that will work for you. So that covers the end of division, and we're at 8 minutes, so I'm going to pause here and stop this video and start another one and talk about rounding, and this should go quite a bit faster for you, but hope that helps you. Please take some time to review division, and we'll see you for part 3 in a few minutes.